The Amazon rainforest, also known as the Amazon jungle or Amazonia, is a humid broadleaf tropical rainforest in the Amazon biome that covers the majority of the Amazon basin of South America. The basin covers an area of 7,000 kilometers to 2,700,000 SQMI, of which 6,000 kilometers, 2,300,000 SQMI, are covered by the rainforest. This area covers land that belongs to 9 countries and 344 indigenous lands. The majority of the forest, 60%, is in Brazil, followed by Peru with 13%, Colombia with 10%, and with minor amounts in Bolivia, Ecuador, French Guiana, Suriname, and Venezuela. 4 nations have Amazonas as the name of one of their first-level administrative regions, and France uses the name Guiana Amazonian Park for French Guiana's protected rainforest area. The Amazon represents over half of the total area of remaining rainforests on Earth, and comprises the largest and most biodiverse tract of tropical rainforest in the world, with an estimated 390 billion individual trees in about 16,000 species. Over 30 million of 350 ethnic groups inhabit the Amazon, which are further divided into 9 various national political systems and 3,144 officially recognized indigenous areas. The indigenous population constitutes 9% of the population, and 60 of the groups are predominantly isolated. Mass deforestation is being practiced in the forest, resulting in various harmful effects. Economic damages by deforestation in Brazil may be as much as 7 times that of all commodities generated through deforestation. In 2023, the World Bank came out with a report suggesting a non-deforestation-based economic initiative in the region. According to archaeological findings of an excavation at Caverna da Pedra Pintada, human residents initially inhabited the Amazon region at least 11,200 years ago. Subsequent development led to late prehistoric settlements along the periphery of the forest by AD 1250, which induced alterations in the forest cover. For a long time it was thought that the Amazon rainforest was never more than sparsely populated, as it was impossible to sustain a large population through agriculture given the poor soil. Archaeologist Betty Meggers was a prominent proponent of this idea, as described in her book Amazonia, Man and Culture in a Counterfeit Paradise. She claimed that a population density of 0.2 inhabitants per square kilometer, 0.52 sq mile, is the maximum that can be sustained in the rainforest through hunting, with agriculture needed to host a larger population. However, recent anthropological findings have suggested that the region was actually densely populated. The Upano Valley sites in modern-day eastern Ecuador date before all other known complex Amazonian societies. Some 5 million people may have lived in the Amazon region in AD 1500, divided between dense coastal settlements, such as that at Marajó, and inland dwellers. Based on projections of food production, one estimate suggests over 8 million people living in the Amazon in 1492. By 1900, the native indigenous population had fallen to 1 million, and by the early 1980s it was less than 200,000. The first European to travel the length of the Amazon River was Francisco de Orellana in 1542. The BBC's Unnatural Histories presents evidence that Orellana, rather than exaggerating his claims as previously thought, was correct in his observations that a complex civilization was flourishing along the Amazon in the 1540s. The pre-Columbian agriculture in the Amazon basin was sufficiently advanced to support prosperous and populous societies. It is believed that civilization was later devastated by the spread of diseases from Europe, such as smallpox. This civilization was investigated by the British explorer Percy Fawcett in the early 20th century. The results of his expeditions were inconclusive, and he disappeared mysteriously on his last trip. His name for this lost civilization was the city of Z. Since the 1970s, Many geoglyphs have been found in deforested ground between AD 1 to 1250, supporting assertions regarding pre-Columbian civilizations. Ondamar Dias is credited with originally discovering the geoglyphs in 1977, and Alciu Ranzi is credited with continuing their discovery after aerial overflight of Acre. The BBC series, Unnatural Histories, showed evidence that the Amazon rainforest, far from being an untouched wilderness, has been influenced by man for a minimum of 11,000 years through the like of forest gardening and terra preta. Terra preta occurs extensively in the Amazon forest and is now generally regarded as a result of indigenous soil management. The creation of this fertile land enabled agriculture and silviculture in the former hostile environment. That is significant. Areas of the Amazonian rainforest are likely to be the product of centuries of human stewardship, and not naturally occurring as has hitherto been assumed. In the Xingu tribe region, remnants of some of these huge settlements within the Middle Amazon jungle were discovered in 2003 by Michael Heckenberger and fellow researchers from the University of Florida. Among them were remnants of roads, bridges, and huge plazas. In the Amazonas, there have been battles and wars among the neighboring tribes of the Jivaro. A few tribes of the Jivaroan tribe, such as the Shuar, hunted heads as trophies and practiced head shrinking. The reports of the missionaries to the region in the borderlands of Brazil and Venezuela have recounted perpetual bickering amongst the Yanomami tribes. Over a third of the Yanomamo men, on average, were killed in warfare. The Munduruku were a warlike tribe that expanded along the Tapajos River and its tributaries and were feared by neighboring tribes. In the early 19th century, the Munduruku were pacified and subjugated by the Brazilians. It is documented that large war parties of the Bororo, Kayapo, Munduruku, Guarani, and Tupi people carried out long-distance raids. Most Bororo groups were continually at war with their neighbors. Conversely, the Xingu have been characterized by ethnographers as a peaceful people, turning to violence only in defense against their warlike neighbors. In the early 20th century, 30 Amazonian indigenous tribes were categorized as peaceful, and 83 were specifically labeled as warlike. During the Amazon rubber boom, it is estimated that typhus and malaria, imported diseases, killed 40,000 native Amazonians in the 1950s. Brazilian explorer and defender of indigenous people, Candido Rondon, supported the Vilas Boas Brothers campaign, which faced strong opposition from the government and the ranchers of Mato Grosso, and led to the establishment of the first Brazilian national park for indigenous people along the Xingu River in 1961. In 1961, British explorer Richard Mason was killed by an uncontacted Amazon tribe known as the Panará. The Matses made their first permanent contact with the outside world in 1969. Before that date, they were effectively at war with the Peruvian government. 9 countries share the Amazon basin. Most of the rainforest, 58.4%, is contained within the borders of Brazil. The other 8 countries are Peru with 12.8%, Bolivia with 7.7%, Colombia with 7.1%, Venezuela with 6.1%, Guyana with 3.1%, Suriname with 2.5%, French Guiana with 1.4%, and Ecuador with 1%. The rainforest likely formed during the Eocene era, from 56 million years to 33.9 million years ago. It existed after a worldwide cooling of tropical temperatures when the Atlantic Ocean had expanded enough to give a warm, humid climate to the Amazon basin. The rainforest existed at least 55 million years ago, and most of the area was free of savanna-type biomes, at least until the present ice age when the climate was drier and savanna more extensive. Following the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, the extinction of the dinosaurs and the wetter climate may have allowed the tropical rainforest to spread out across the continent. From 66 to 34 Maya, the rainforest extended as far south as 45°. Climate fluctuations during the last 34 million years have allowed savanna regions to expand into the tropics. During the Oligocene, for example, the rainforest spanned a relatively narrow band. It expanded again during the Middle Miocene, then retracted to a mostly inland formation at the last glacial maximum. However, the rainforest still managed to thrive during these glacial periods, allowing for the survival and evolution of a broad diversity of species. During the mid-Eocene, it is believed that the drainage basin of the Amazon was split along the middle of the continent by the Purus Arch. Water on the eastern side flowed toward the Atlantic, while to the west, water flowed toward the Pacific across the Amazonas basin. As the Andes Mountains rose, however, a large basin was created that enclosed a lake, now known as the Solimoes Basin. Within the last 5 to 10 million years, this accumulating water broke through the Purus Arch, joining the easterly flow toward the Atlantic. There is evidence that there have been significant changes in the Amazon rainforest vegetation over the last 21,000 years, through the last glacial maximum, LGM, and subsequent deglaciation. Analyses of sediment deposits from Amazon basin paleo lakes, and the Amazon fan indicate that rainfall in the basin during the LGM was lower than for the present, and this was almost certainly associated with reduced moist tropical vegetation cover in the basin. In present day, the Amazonie receives approximately 9 feet of rainfall annually. There is a debate, however, over how extensive this reduction was. Some scientists argue that the rainforest was reduced to small, isolated refugia, separated by open forest and grassland. Other scientists argue that the rainforest remained largely intact, but extended less far to the north, south, and east than is seen today. This debate has proved difficult to resolve because the practical limitations of working in the rainforest mean that data sampling is biased away.